the opinions of the staff or management of Visionary Related Entertainment.
Aloha, and welcome to Betty's Real Estate Corner, brought to you by Roy and Betty Sakamoto, Caldwell Banker, Kapalua. Today we have a guest in the studio that we haven't had here before, so I hope that everybody is really excited about this. Dave Browne, who is Makai Mortgage, and I'm going to have him introduce himself and tell you a little bit about Makai Mortgage. And then we want to talk about some things about mortgages and interest rates. And I'm going to tell you an interesting story after we get into this about the way early days for us when interest rates were really through the ceiling. You know, right now people are complaining about 5.5%. But anyway, David, oops.
Thanks, Betty. David Browne with Makai Mortgage here on Maui. I've been doing home loans here on Maui for coming up on 13 years. Been with Makai Mortgage now for just a little bit over a year. And Makai Mortgage is a mortgage broker shop. We have a very wide array of loan programs. I always joke and say I can finance anything that's here on Maui. Anything you have listed, Betty?
Anything.
I gotcha.
Okay, we're good on that. We're going to do it. So fortunately, we've been in the moment of the last couple of years where the majority of our people have been paying cash, which is fabulous. But that doesn't always happen. And right now, especially for the market that I think could be really active coming up, I think that there are going to be more owner-occupants somehow stepping into the market. And I think that's difficult, and everybody's really afraid, and everybody right now is afraid of the interest rate. But after we sat down here, I was sharing with Dave that I had a client many years ago, because we are getting older here, and she wanted to buy a place that was $1 million. She was a businesswoman here, and the interest rate that she ended up getting was 18%. Now, interest rates were through the ceiling. But she wanted the place, and it was something that wasn't usually available. It was brand new. It was just across from the ocean. She totally loved it, and she bought it. And for whatever, it never hurt her. She was always fine with it. She ended up refinancing a number of times and probably ended up eventually really happy with maybe an 8.5% mortgage. And now, obviously, everybody's complaining about 5.5 or something.
Yeah, right.
Is it about there?
5.5%, 6%, 30-year fixed right now. Yeah.
So what are you thinking right now from the standpoint of, let's say, it's going to be hard forever, but I think we may still see some things come on that will be owner-occupant and theoretically the workforce. You know, people who are working here that have saved some money, maybe gift money for down payment. So what are you thinking right now? Interest rate and qualifying, et cetera?
Yeah, so a lot of my clients right now are opting for ARM loans. The 7-1 or the 7-6 and the 10-6 ARM. It's offering you rates that were the 30-year of yesterday. And like you said with your client back in the 80s or early 70s that had the 18%, she refinanced eventually into a lower rate.
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of the thought process when you approach doing like a 7-6 or a 10-6 ARM.
So what interest rate are you seeing right now on that?
So on a 10-6 ARM, you can get almost a full percentage point lower.
Which would be?
4.5 for an owner-occupied single family home.
So I think that's a great interest rate. That's fabulous.
No, it's fantastic. And a decade's a long time.
A decade is a long time.
Just think about how many times the economy can come full circle in a decade, and how many opportunities you might have to refinance into something more long-term in that 10-year period. So for a lot of people, that's making a lot of sense right now. The other thing I'm seeing more of that I didn't see when rates were, at the 3.5 mark, is people are paying points and buying down the rate. So, just because you hear 5.5 or 6%, that's a 0-point rate. So if you pay a point or a 1.5,
you can still get the rate lower.
You can still get the rate lower. So for a lot of people, that's what they're doing too.
Well, I'm glad we're having this meeting because I didn't realize that you could even get a loan at that interest rate right now.
Oh, yeah.
So a jumbo loan, what would it be?
Well,
Approximately.
yeah, sure. If you're up over the 975 mark, which is, the Maui County conforming limit thereabouts, on a 30-year fixed, you're going to be looking in the low fives.
So I still think that's nobody should be afraid of that.
Yeah.
It should be perfect.
Yeah. And I have a 1530 balloon. So it's fixed for 15 years, and then it balloons after the 15 years. That, for an owner-occupied, you can get 4.125. It's at 3 points. So you're buying, you're paying the point charge. So your closing costs are a little bit more, but just think about 4.125 in today's rate market.
Absolutely.
So there's opportunities out there still to get really, really low rates, and not that 6% isn't historically low. I think that the average 30-year fixed in the U.S. over the last 40 years is up close to 8%. So, that's the average over the last 40 years. So 6% still good.
What are you thinking? We're all talking, everybody's kind of maybe, let's say, hoping and praying for some more owner-occupied inventory coming up as workforce housing, low-income housing, whatever we want to call it. Are you thinking right now if something were on the table, there'd be some really great rates coming up? Or if there was a product that came up quickly, what are you thinking?
Are you asking me if I think rates are going to go down soon?
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I think everyone's kind of paying attention to the Fed immensely right now. And I think their position is that I think they'll continue to raise rates. And a lot of people hear, they raised the rate, the Fed raised the short-term rate. That doesn't directly affect mortgage rates. It's the quantitative easing or quantitative tightening that they're doing when they're selling their mortgage-backed securities.
Yes, okay.
That actually affects the mortgage rates. And so as they raise the rates, they're reducing their balance sheet, which is making the mortgage rates go up. And I think they're going to have to continue to do that at least for the next year, maybe year and a half. A lot of economists, which I'm not, seem to think that, when the economy really shows signs of taking a bad turn, that the Fed's going to have to do a 180 and bring rates back down. And a lot of people that I've been reading are kind of targeting a year and a half from now. So that's why when you have people doing the 10-6 ARM or the 7-6 ARM loan, the chances of them having an opportunity to restructure that loan into a 30-year fixed in that window is pretty high. So that's a long time.
Yeah, I would think you're right.
Yeah.
I would think. Sad, or not even sadly, a lot of people that have lived here don't keep homes that long. So I do think that I think there will be new product around. Now, one of the things that's hard is often the new product isn't available to someone that already owns a property.
Right.
When they come up, especially with a lower income. So that could keep someone right now from buying. I think politically it's going to be interesting because everybody running for office right now seems to be talking about homes.
It seems to be their number one issue.
It's the number one issue.
Yeah.
Lower income housing, workforce housing. I think there's more and more employers, large employers, that could and should be coming up with a product of their own. And there's possibilities of that. We know of a few that we've been talking to, trying to take over buildings or trying to do a variety of different options to make it happen. But again, that'll be an interesting thing for owner-occupants because without it, as we all know, too many of the businesses right now don't have enough employees, and there's not enough housing to bring anybody in. Even the big hotels, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
For them to have enough people. And I think at least 80% of that has to do with housing and finding places for our young people, but older people also.
Oh, absolutely.
It could be anybody, but let's say the young people, families that have moved here, the people that have grown up here, and this is where their life is, where they want to be. It's going to be interesting. I think we should all work on, for another show, ideas for how it can possibly work to come up with housing that stays owner-occupied.
Yeah.
That doesn't become second homes.
It would be fantastic if they were able to get that box to where it really truly helped the people that are here.
Absolutely.
Because it seems like right now that's not the case.
It's hard. It's really hard.
And I don't know enough about the regulation that it takes to build a community here or develop a home to really talk in depth about it. But the consensus that I've gotten from a lot of developers here is that the regulation is just too thick. And by the time they get through the weeds on that, it's just so expensive to make that mid-level point price construction. And it's not on their priority list.
Well, I think, you and I talked when I first got here, we were talking a little bit about voting. People are voting today. And I think we're going to have a good opportunity in Maui County to vote coming up. And if you pay attention to that and think about it, whether it's for yourself, for the seniors in your life, for the young people coming up that want to raise a family, it's something that we should all work as hard as we can to figure out who the candidates are that are paying attention to that and are really going to work, like you say, to get rid of some of the regulation, because that is one of the problems for people trying to build low-income housing. I mean, you already have interest rates that are really great, and hopefully that's going to take a couple of years, but they need to do it. So again, don't think you shouldn't vote because maybe you didn't go to Harvard Business School or something, or you didn't go to college, or you didn't graduate from high school. It doesn't matter. You live here, you work here, and you have the right to vote. Whether you make the decision talking to family members or reading or where you work, it's your vote counts. And I just think everybody's got to do that. They've got to do it.
I think that if you don't vote, you can't complain.
There you go. I think that's one of the greatest of all statements, really.
Yeah.
And yet the people who don't vote are probably the first to complain. So let's encourage everybody in our lives to vote. I mean, if let's say older people, that might need a push to vote, and I mean, not trying to tell them who to vote for, but helping them to maybe get to vote or to get out, or getting them newspapers or whatever might help them, or leading them toward places they can find it online. I think whatever we do to help other people vote, it would be great. And then let's be happy with it for 4 years, even if your candidate doesn't win. I've said a few times now, I'm getting older, said that twice, but when I grew up, my parents, I don't know who they voted for, but they voted. They always voted, both of them. And when it was done, if their candidate didn't win, they maybe complained for a day, but then they supported whoever won, because that's the American way. That's the Democratic Party working. I mean, the Democratic, not party, the democratic process working. And I think we've got to remember our democracy has got to be the most important thing to us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
And keep our life happening.
Yep.
Anyway, going back to, we were at an office meeting this morning, and I think everybody was trying to get your attention. You may not have noticed it, because everybody's working really hard, having a hard time finding new people to buy. But I think it's starting to pick up a little again. People are coming in and out of open houses. We're getting more telephone calls. People are looking for things, and I think we've got to pay attention to that. And I think you're going to get a lot of calls, which you're already doing, that will take huge amounts of time. But I think it'll be great for our office.
I think the current market here on Maui, with the interest rates going up, has really kind of slowed down the single family stuff, especially the midpoint stuff, the median value stuff, because those are the people that are the most affected by higher rates.
Yes.
But what I'm finding right now is the investors, the ones buying the vacation rental condos, seemingly are unfazed by interest rates.
I agree with you. They're unfazed. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly. And a savvy real estate investor understands the perspective of, if the cash flow of the property is absorbing the overhead, then you're not actually the one paying the interest anyway. It's your tenants. And
True.
Your interest rate's kind of your friend too, come tax time. So what I've noticed, Betty, just to give you some insight, is that the interest rates are seemingly unaffecting the investor marketplace. the biggest pressure I'm seeing is the single family stuff in that $1 million range. You know, you get somebody that buys $1 million home today and they put 20% down, they're financing $800,000 at 6%. After you add in taxes and insurance, if there's an HOA, you're getting really close to $4,500 a month.
Absolutely.
And for a family where, you know, you have a construction worker, teacher, you know,
Yeah,
that's
it's
their
hard.
household, that's coming up real close to 50% of their gross income, not their net, their gross. And so I think that's why we're seeing a little bit of a slowdown in the single family market in that price point.
Also, inventory.
Sure.
There really is nowhere near even enough inventory in that price range
Right.
to satisfy the people that possibly could or would buy right now.
That would help prices as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it would.
I think everyone's, you know, as prices catapulted or shot up, if you will, right after the pandemic and during the pandemic, not everybody, but a lot of people were like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah. Yes, I think you're right.
Here we go again. And I was paying really close attention to the inventory, and it's anemic. And the old adage, supply and demand, I think at the end of the day is going to hold real estate through even a really bad economic downturn this time, just because there is no inventory. On Maui, there's no end in sight for that.
There's no end in sight.
Because I don't see people moving dirt around a whole lot. I mean, there's
No.
a few things here and
There's
there.
a few things that have been approved that
Right.
haven't started.
And you know how that works.
That's right, whether they're going to start or not.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a project at Kapalua right now that they are talking about starting. I can't believe that they can or will, because I think it's too many
an affordable
cars.
project?
No,
Oh.
no. It's long story. I won't even
Okay.
say which,
All right.
because it would be too complicated to get into it. But it really is going to be interesting because it would add too many cars. And there are problems going on also in West Maui that in order to just keep traffic moving, you can only add so many cars, so many properties, so many whatever it is.
Tell me about it.
Yep.
I drive my kids to Kihei Charter every day
Okay.
from town. Have
Absolutely.
you gone by where they're building the roundabout over there, by where the new high school is going to be?
No. I mean, actually, I have. But
Too many
it's-
cars is an
Yeah, there's already
understatement.
too many cars.
Yeah.
We went to the party, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, for Tommy Muldoon.
Yeah.
Tommy Muldoon, who's leaving Caldwell Banker after 30 years and going back to New York, which he's a New Yorker through and through. He was a New York policeman. He's probably one of the
He
greatest
never lost the
people.
accent.
Never lost his accent. He probably can make it a little more intense when he chooses to. But love Tommy, but we went over there for that. And you're right, I mean, traffic is already insane there. The school is going to be unbelievable. And where does the money come from anyway? They build this huge school, and at Lahaina Luna, we can barely get them to pay for water for a classroom. That needs, I mean, another whole story. But again, I think we need to find a way that our schools are better taken care of. There's a lot of stuff going on, but without the housing, we're going to have difficulties.
Definitely.
So I think your interest rates sound really great. And tell them more about you. Let's get your phone number for people, email address.
Sure.
I had it.
The easiest way to find me really is mauihomeloans.net.
Okay, Maui Home Loans, plural,
Yep.
.net.
.net.
That's pretty easy, mauihomeloans.net. So everybody stop, pull off the side of the road, which you can still get ticketed for just pulling off the side of the road. But if somehow write it down when you're done. And
mauihomeloans.net.
best phone number?
Phone number is 808-344-3414.
344-3414.
You got it.
That should be fairly easy. So again, 808-344-3414. And one of the things that I think would be really important for anybody, even if you're not buying right now, would be to call David, check in with him, and tell him what your goals are. And he can start like a computer something for you, write something down, whatever he does now, and give you some ideas, because you can tell him what you have, what you need, and what you want, and what your goals are. Because if one of these properties does come available and you're able to do it, that could be fabulous. And he'll be ready with you. He'll know you, know your family.
There's nothing I enjoy more than helping someone, especially that's self-employed, business
Yes,
owner
yep.
here on Maui, that, for them, it's daunting to think about getting pre-approved
Absolutely.
because they're like, they maybe don't do their taxes. They have someone else do their taxes. They're not the numbers people. They just
Yeah.
run the business. They're like, well, I'm making good money.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
maybe I
good.
can
I'm
afford
good.
a house. And then I look at their tax returns, and maybe we have to coach them a little bit on how to plan going forward for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And doing that with people is one of the things that I really love to do is getting someone that maybe doesn't immediately qualify today,
Being
but
sure they can later.
coaching them and a year or two down the road, then they're good. Also, I have loan programs for self-employed people where they analyze your bank statements instead of the tax returns.
Really?
And so for a lot of self-employed people, that comes in handy because maybe they've only been in business for a year, and a
But
lot
you
of
think you can do them?
Yes,
or a good chance?
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 12 months big business bank statement loan. It's a fantastic tool for a lot of self-employed people.
That's amazing, really.
But yeah, planning ahead. I always tell people, don't be afraid to get pre-approved. It's not like a doctor's visit.
That's right, yes. And the other thing is, it doesn't mean you're going to be forced into buying something.
Exactly.
This is your loan representative, David here. It really will make a big difference to you because it'll give you confidence. I think sometimes, especially when you are a younger business owner, which we were at one time, and I remember the first thing we actually bought a place at Kapalua, a condominium, that was almost 100% financed by the owner.
Oh,
And it was a really hard time in the market. He really wanted it sold. And we had talked to him for a while, and we ended up buying it with a lot of financing. But again, we were running our own company. We were probably didn't even realize how good we were doing. But I think that if we had at the time, I think it was the best thing we ever did.
Yeah.
So from there, I mean,
think it worked
everything-
out pretty good
It
for
worked
you,
out
buddy.
pretty good, yes. We're very fortunate. I feel it always, Roy and I both. We're so blessed at what we've done. We're so happy with it. And our life is really amazing. And Roy was my husband, born and raised here. And I've been here now pushing 50 years. So life has been really good. But the other thing now, we've got only a couple minutes left. But one of the things my daughter says and helps, and just kind of a little message on, and she's here for Lahaina Luna reunion, 40 years.
Oh, wow.
So Julie Ahu Sherlock, originally Julie Ahu Flynn. But she says that whatever your agent tells you, your loan agent, get everything to him. And then if he asks you again in 3 weeks, get it to him again. And at 4 weeks, if he needs it again, get it to him again. Whatever you need to get to him, keep getting it to him because he is your best friend in all of this.
absolutely.
And it's been really great, being able to spend time with you today.
Likewise.
I
Thanks.
met you before, but I mean, today we just happened to be at the meeting, fell into this.
It's on the fly.
On the fly, and you came.
Awesome.
So I think it's been perfect. So we're going to be coming up pretty quickly to Danny Couch again. He starts us and he finishes us up. But again, call David. Well, I guess David is really what somebody calls them when they're angry. But call David at 808-344-3414 or your website, Makai.
No,
I'm sorry.
MauiHomeLoans.net.
MauiHomeLoans.net. And I think that Danny Couch ought to be coming on here. Here it is, Danny Couch. He is one of the best entertainers in Hawaii, and he's flown over here and did a fabulous luau for Halemakua, the nursing homes here.
Very cool.
He is the best of the best. So thank you, Danny, for letting us use this. Aloha.
Aloha.
I feel happy listening.